648 AM, DAB, online, on your smart speaker, and on Freeview Channel 277. This is Radio Caroline.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening. It's Ray Clark from now through until 7. You might be aware that radio legend Johnnie Walker has just finished his last programme on BBC Radio 2. Sadly, health problems prevent him from continuing to broadcast. But Caroline and Johnnie Walker have a strong link. Although he didn't start with Caroline, he made his name on Radio Caroline. So perhaps, as he's now finished a long and outstanding radio career, it's only right that his last broadcast words are on Caroline.
Caroline, 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 Caroline. He's in. Johnnie Walker. He's on.
Well, of course, I used to love listening to Radio Caroline. I was in the Midlands, and I remember having to string a huge long wire aerial out of the window and up over the roof in order to be able to pick up Radio Caroline and Radio London. And then May 66, I got a job on Radio England. And I remember one day the tender, which used to supply all the boats because they're all anchored close to each other. So you had swinging Radio England, you had Radio Caroline, you had Radio London, all together. And the tender left Radio England and then moored alongside Radio Caroline. And Mike Ahern shouted down, "Is Johnnie Walker on there? Tell him to come and work for us. He's a good DJ." And that was a lovely thing for him to say. And that kind of stuck with me.
Broadcasting 4.5 miles up the Brindle Essex coast on 227 metres with 55,000 watts of power. This is Swinging Radio England, your first 24-hour most music station. The time now is exactly 1 a.m.
This is the Johnnie Walker Show on the much more music station, Swinging Radio England. The Bus Jocks.
And then came the day when I was just looking through the local paper while the tender was alongside, whilst I was on Radio England. It was just a very small story that one of the two stations on board the motor vessel Laissez-Faire, of course we had Swinging Radio England and Britain Radio, one of the two stations would go to a Dutch format. And I thought, well, it's not going to be Britain Radio because that's very unique. So it's going to be Radio England. So I said to the captain of the tender, "How long are you going to be here for?" He goes, "Another 10 minutes. So I said, "Well, wait for me." I rushed downstairs, packed my bag, came back up. Roger Day said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Oh, I've got something to do." So I jumped on the tender. And that night, Caroline was having an event at the Wimbledon Palais. And Chief DJ Tom Lodge was there. And I managed to talk my way backstage at the Wimbledon Palais. And I saw Tom. And I said, "Any chance of a job on Caroline?" And he said, "Well, you've got to go and talk to the Canadian whiz kids, Terry Bate, and then there was another. There were two Canadian guys who were pretty much running Caroline at that time. So they were in Caroline House. So I went there the next day, saw Terry Bate, and I said, "I'd love to come work on Caroline." And I had a tape with me. And he said, "Just wait there a sec." And he disappeared for what seemed like at least half an hour. And then he came back downstairs and he said, "Can you catch the train tomorrow morning from Ipswich and be on the tender?" So there it was. The very next day I joined Radio Caroline and I sat in for Rick Dane for a while, who did the 9 to midnight show. And then Rick decided to leave. He wasn't really enjoying himself, I don't think. And he also had a mobile disco business that he wanted to concentrate on in London. So he left and I inherited the show. So 9 to midnight became the Johnnie Walker Show. And I felt so at home. It just seemed to fit beautifully. And I think in the evening, people are really listening to a radio program. During the day, they might be listening, but also in many cases, it's sort of a background music. It's on while people are doing something else. But you've got more listeners' attention at night time. And I started a thing called the 10 o'clock turn on, playing a couple of great soul records.
Johnnie Walker, 10 o'clock turn-on time. Every night at this hour, Caroline Transmitter reproduces a groovy record guaranteed on. Turn you on. Come on, money, baby. Go try Errol and into your granny. Done once, but twice. Now you must close your eyes and open your mind for here's tonight. Johnnie Walker's song. Forget it. Guaranteed on.
Then we had Kiss in the Car, challenged people to kiss non-stop all the way through a record, and sent them a license. My mum sent them all out, bless her heart.
Now, all you have to do now is get a self-addressed envelope, give it a 41 in the corner, put it inside another envelope, and send it to yours truly, Radio Caroline, London W1. And I will send off to you an official, yes, beware of cheap imitations, an official Johnnie Walker Kiss in the Car license, valid till January 1968. So you do that thing straight away now, because everybody else is. So you'll be a loser if you haven't got a license on your windscreen. 22 minutes before 12 midnight on Caroline.
I went to the printers and I did a design of the license based on a tax disc. And he said, I can't print this. He said, it's a facsimile of a tax disc. And I said, no, I've taken it to the police and had it checked out. And they said, it's okay. And he goes, oh, all right then. How many do you need? And I said, well, 20,000 would do. So that's what happened. I think we sent out 19,000 altogether. Somebody did get taken to court, having it in the car window and not having a tax disc. And the magistrate said, I'm surprised at this radio station putting out a facsimile of the road fund license. Then we started print and flashing, which was a way of communicating with people on shore.
21 minutes before midnight now, and we've seen you all right, beautifully, that guy who's flashing there just. Now you know the rules. Very quickly we'll try and find out something from you. It's 2 flashes for yes and 1 flash for no. So if you'd like to tell me now whether I've spoken to you before on the air, if you'd like to flash now.
Because, of course, there's no email, there was no mobile phones. We had a ship-to-shore telephone, only to be used in emergencies. There was on the bridge, I think, that the captain used. I remember an engineer spotted these lights flashing, and he said, I think there's a car flashing headlights at it. And I said, the car flashing headlights at the ship, give me 3 flashes. And it flashed 3 times. And I said, okay, I got you. So we pinpointed the car. 2 flashes for yes, 1 flash for no. Might have been the other way around, can't remember. But from that, I used to find out their names, how long they'd been going out with each other, where they'd been that evening. It was a real kind of conversation. And print and flashing became really well known. And I remember there was one great day when the BBC, bless them, were going to come down and do a documentary on Caroline. So all week long, I was plugging. I said, the BBC are coming down Saturday night. Come to Frinton, shine your lights at the ship. Let's show the BBC how many people love Caroline. So, of course, the whole of Frinton and surrounding areas was invaded by cars. And I remember this same engineer, he was a great guy, because to communicate with cars, I would go out on deck and he fitted me up with a big long lead for my headphones and a big long lead for a handheld mic. So I'm out on the deck this Saturday night. I said, so the BBC are filming this.
Now is the chance for the whole nation to flash their lights and show everyone parked around them that are listening to Radio Caroline. So, Pat, if you hit the jingle, and let's see some flashes now.
And the entire coastline, as far as you can see, from left to right, lit up. It was just absolutely incredible. It was my moment of greatest megalomania, I have to say. And, of course, I repeated the exercise a few times. It was fantastic.
Well, you know how we do it. We want to find out your names, you see. So if you take the first letter of your Christian name and count it into the alphabet. In other words, if your name is Arthur, you flash once. If it's C. Charlie, you flash twice, and so on. So if you could do that for us over there, and don't do it until, we've had about 5 seconds of the record, and then I can count the flashes and we'll try and work out your name. All right?
So here we are, Radio Caroline still going. Ronan O'Reilly said, there will always be a Radio Caroline. He used to call her the lady. He didn't used to like to go out to the ship because he got seasick, but there was one time he was going out with a bunch of journalists. And one of the journalists noticed that as we got near the ship, the sea seemed to calm down. And he mentioned this. And Ronan goes, well, he said, that's the calming influence of the lady, beaming out our love. That's what causes the sea to be calmer around the lady, as he always called Radio Caroline. And what it was, of course, is we were over a sandbank. So the sea was always calmer over the sandbank. That was the reason why we were anchored where we were. But that was Ronan's little joke, which I also loved. He very, very rarely went out to the ship, and he didn't like being seasick. He'd rather be sitting in a plush restaurant on the King's Road, which was his favourite hangout. I remember in the later days, when we didn't get paid properly, we used to have to go up and down the King's Road, going in restaurants and finding Ronan. I said, come on, Ronan, we need some wages. And he'd sort of put his hands in his pockets and he'd give us like 15 quid here. And then he goes, that's it. That's my last £5 note. And you knew he was lying through his teeth. But that was Ronan for you. He was a ducker and a diver. The big moment for me, talking of Ronan, was he wrote the script for the midnight announcement. And it was a kind of perverse way of looking at things that I think a lot of people misunderstood. Because he started off by saying, Radio Caroline would like to thank Harold Wilson and the British government
for at last, after over 3.5 years of broadcasting, recognizing this station's legality. It's right to be here. It's right to be broadcasting to Great Britain and the continent. It's right to give the music and service to the peoples of Europe, which we have been doing since Easter Sunday, 1964. And we, in turn, recognize your right as our listener to have freedom of choice in your radio entertainment, and of course that Radio Caroline belongs to you. It is your radio station, even though it costs you nothing. And as we enter this new phase in our broadcasting history, you naturally have our assurance that we intend to stay on the air because we belong to you and we love you. Caroline continues.
And basically what it meant was they couldn't do anything about Caroline being in international waters. All they could do was make it illegal for a British subject to work on there. So we had DJs from Canada who could have stayed working on Caroline with no problem, but they decided to go back before the 14th of August. But Robbie Dale and I decided to stay and keep Caroline going. I thought, if Caroline's going to keep going, I want to be part of it. It was such a huge part of my life. We were so loved, especially after Radio London closed down on the 14th of August. So I thought we should do everything we could to keep it going. And it was a nightmare. It was a complete nightmare, crossing the North Sea to Holland, sometimes in a force 10 gale. Seasickness is awful. Even when your stomach's empty, you don't stop being sick. I remember sort of being in the galley upstairs on the tender, thrown up into the sink for what seemed like, how long did it take us? 12 hours, something ridiculous to cross the North Sea. Flat-bottom boat, that was the trouble. Sometimes when you came back from leave in Holland, you had to go straight on the radio, feeling absolutely dreadful. Those were the tough times, but there were many, many good times.
This is a story of man's fight for freedom. The beginning is in the past, the middle is now, the end is in the future. It is a story of sadness and of triumph. August the 14th, as disc jockeys Robbie Dale, Johnnie Walker and Ross Brown leave Liverpool Street, London, spurred on toward the sea by the hundreds of cheering people. See them now as they stand on the tender. There are tears in their eyes as their families, their homes, and their loved ones are left behind. 3 o'clock on this Monday afternoon, and on 266, Big Lil is heard for the last time. Caroline is alone. These three men prepare for midnight. For in a few hours' time, they have to challenge the might and the power of the British government. They will become criminals. Midnight approaches. It is August the 15th. Johnnie Walker announces that Caroline belongs to you, that she loves you and she will continue. The Beatles sing All You Need Is Love. These two men sound happy, but underneath they are sad, for they now know that they have passed the point of no return. They are not sad for long. They are joined by other men who also gave up so much to fight for freedom. The seas are rough and cruel, life is hard, but as each day passes, the moment of triumph grows nearer. The British people rally round. They send food, they send comfort, and they send their love. All you need is love, and love overcomes. The British government relents. Caroline raises her anchor and heads for England. See her now majestically and proudly sailing up the river toward the capital that has welcomed so many victors in British history. But none as victorious as these men. They stand on the deck waving to the millions of people who line the Thames. This time the tears flooding from their eyes are tears of happiness. The insurmountable odds have been surmounted. They reunite with their families, with their friends, with their loved ones. We are near the end of our story. London's skyline has a new landmark pointed toward the heavens. Caroline's Ariel. At last beaming out its love and music to a free and peaceful nation. We have overcome. The battle is over. Free radio becomes a way of life, but never taken for granted. For no man will ever forget Monday, August the 14th, 1967.
I'm recording this in my little den where I do my Sounds of the 70s shows, and then I have to stop really because this lung fibrosis I have is making it increasingly difficult to do radio programs because I just get more and more breathless. So there you go. So to all those who are involved with keeping Radio Caroline going, I salute you. Well done. So carry on, Radio Caroline. Keep up the good work. And you will, of course, at the end of this, play the theme tune. God bless you all and take good care.